Have you ever felt hurt by the cruel words of others? That unexpected criticism, the bullying disguised as a joke, or even the nasty comments on social media? If you've been through this, know that you are far from alone. But what if I told you that these words, instead of bringing you down, could be the key to your greatest personal growth? Yes, you heard that right. In this video, we're going to reveal how Stoic philosophy can transform the hatred and criticism of others into a true source of strength and self-confidence. Throughout history, great thinkers like Seneca and Marcus Aurelius used Stoicism to deal with attacks and adversity in a powerful way, and you can learn to do the same. Imagine using words of contempt not as something that weakens you, but as fuel to become the best version of yourself. If you're ready to flip the switch and start turning hate into motivation for growth, keep watching because you're about to learn something transformative. Criticism, especially destructive ones, can have a devastating impact on our self-esteem. Whether at work, on social media, or even within our close circles, harsh words often hit us like a direct blow. They not only make us doubt ourselves, but can also trigger feelings of inadequacy, anger, and frustration. It's natural to want to fight back or defend ourselves when attacked, but what many don't realize is that this impulsive reaction often only strengthens the negative cycle. What starts as external criticism quickly turns into an internal battle, where we begin questioning our identity and self-worth. And that's where the real problem lies. By allowing ourselves to be affected by others' words, we lose control over our inner peace. However, here's the good news. There is a way to break this cycle. Stoicism, an ancient philosophy, offers powerful tools for dealing with these situations differently. Instead of reacting impulsively with anger or frustration, the Stoics teach us to observe and reflect on what surrounds us without being dominated by what we cannot control. They show us that by learning to control our reactions, we can turn any adversity, including criticism and hate, into an opportunity for growth. Now that we understand the impact of criticism, let's explore how Stoicism can help us handle it in a healthier and more constructive way. Stoicism is a practical philosophy that originated in ancient Greece, but its lessons remain incredibly relevant today. Its focus is not just on the pursuit of happiness, but primarily on the development of virtue, self-control, and wisdom. The main Stoic philosophers, such as Seneca, Epictetus, and Marcus Aurelius, taught us that to live a fulfilling life, we must understand what we can control and what is beyond our reach. One of the fundamental principles of Stoicism is the distinction between what we can and cannot control. When it comes to criticism or social rejection, the first thing to understand is that we cannot control what others say or think about us. However, what we can control is how we react to these words and how much we allow them to impact our inner peace. The philosopher Epictetus summed this up perfectly when he said, "It is not things that disturb us, but our perception of them." This brings us directly to the next point, the importance of reason in Stoicism. Instead of being governed by emotions like anger or frustration in the face of criticism, the Stoics teach us to use reason to evaluate the situation more objectively. When faced with criticism, we can pause and reflect on what is being said, questioning whether there is something valuable we can learn, or if the criticism is merely an attempt to destabilize us. Additionally, Stoic philosophy teaches us to accept adversity as a natural part of life. Criticism, rejection, and attacks are part of the human experience, and instead of resisting them, we should accept them and use them as opportunities to practice patience, resilience, and emotional balance. By adopting these Stoic principles, we begin to realize that instead of being victims of others' words, we can take control of our own narrative and respond in a way that strengthens and makes us wiser. Now that we understand some Stoic fundamentals, let's explore how we can apply these principles in a practical way to turn criticism into learning and personal growth. Throughout life, we all face criticism. Some come from close people, others from strangers, but one thing is certain: we will all be targets at some point. The big question is, how should we react? The Stoic answer is simple yet profound. Transform every criticism into an opportunity for growth. Instead of seeing criticism as an attack on our personality or something personal, we can choose to see it as a chance to reflect on our actions and find ways to improve. The philosopher Seneca, in his writings, reminds us that others have no power over us unless we allow them to. He believed that when criticism affects us, we should reflect. What does this reveal about me? Is there something I can learn and improve? This approach leads us to a central concept in Stoicism: self-improvement. When we receive criticism, especially negative ones, we have the chance to question whether it contains something valuable. This doesn't mean passively accepting everything, but rather using criticism as a tool. For example, if someone tells us that we are not being clear in our communication, instead of reacting with anger or feeling insecure, we can pause and reflect. Could I actually improve the way I communicate? What can I do to be more effective? A great example of this is Marcus Aurelius, one of Rome's greatest emperors and also an exemplary Stoic. He was surrounded by adversity, criticism, and even betrayals. But in his meditations, he shares how he used these moments to reflect on his own life and how he could improve as a leader. He said, "Life is what happens while we are busy making other plans." This reflects the idea that instead of fighting against adversities, we should accept them and use them to strengthen our character. Furthermore, Stoicism teaches us not to take criticism personally. In many cases, when someone criticizes us, their motivation may have more to do with their own insecurities or frustrations than with our actual flaws. By adopting the Stoic perspective, we begin to see criticism as external reflections that have nothing to do with our personal worth. This attitude does not mean ignoring criticism, but rather not letting it affect our sense of identity. With time, by applying this kind of reflection to criticism, we begin to strengthen our self-confidence and our ability to learn from mistakes. Stoicism, therefore, not only helps us deal with criticism, but also teaches us to use these experiences for personal growth. Every criticism, no matter how harsh, becomes an opportunity to become more resilient, stronger, and wiser. Now that we understand how criticism can be a tool for learning, let's explore how we can apply Stoicism in practice by creating an action plan to handle these situations effectively and constructively. Now that we understand the fundamentals of Stoicism and how we can transform criticism into opportunities for growth, let's move on to the next step: how to put this into practice in our daily lives. Here, we'll explore some specific Stoic strategies that you can start applying right now to handle criticism and strengthen your emotional resilience. On emotionally distancing yourself and analyzing rationally, the first crucial step in dealing with criticism is learning not to react impulsively. When we are criticized, our initial reaction is often emotional. We may feel anger, sadness, or even shame. However, the Stoics teach us to take a step back and observe the situation with reason instead of letting emotions take over. Epictetus, for example, recommended that in the face of any adversity, we take a mental pause and reflect. What really happened? Is this criticism something I can control? What can I learn from it? This distancing allows you to assess the situation objectively, without letting emotions interfere with your decisions. By adopting this behavior, you reduce the chances of reacting impulsively and start seeing criticism in a more constructive way. Practicing Stoic indifference. Another powerful Stoic strategy is rational indifference. This does not mean being indifferent in the sense of not caring, but rather learning not to be shaken by things beyond your control. When someone criticizes or attacks us, their criticism is their reaction. It does not define who we are or our worth. The Stoics teach us not to let others' behavior affect our inner peace. By practicing rational indifference, you learn to separate what is external from what is internal. Criticism is external, but how you feel about it is entirely under your control. Once you understand this, you start to realize that nothing and no one has the power to disturb your peace unless you allow it. Reframing, changing perspective. Of the most powerful tools in Stoicism is the concept of reframing. When we receive criticism, we have the choice of how to interpret it. Instead of seeing it as an attack on our identity, we can reframe it as an opportunity for improvement. By adopting this perspective, criticism stops being destructive and becomes a tool for self-development. Seneca, in his letters, suggests that we should use any adversity as a means to test our inner strength. When someone criticizes your work, instead of feeling defeated, ask yourself, what does this criticism teach me? Is there something I can improve? This mindset transforms criticism into a positive experience, a chance for growth. 4. Practicing gratitude. Although gratitude is often associated with positive aspects of life, it can also be applied to criticism. By practicing gratitude, we can appreciate even difficult situations that force us to grow and improve. Gratitude helps us see the positive side of challenges, allowing us to perceive criticism as an opportunity for learning. Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations, frequently expressed gratitude even for adversities, seeing them as a path to self-knowledge and personal growth. Daily reflection. One of the essential Stoic practices is daily reflection. At the end of each day, set aside some time to reflect on your actions, how you responded to criticism, and what you could have done differently. This practice of constructive self-criticism is an excellent way to identify patterns and improve how we deal with adversity. Marcus Aurelius regularly engaged in this practice, questioning his reactions and considering how he could improve in the future. By incorporating this habit into your routine, you become more aware of how you handle life's challenges and can make wiser and more balanced decisions. True emotional strength does not come from the absence of criticism, but from our ability to withstand it and emerge stronger. When someone criticizes us, the natural tendency is to doubt ourselves. However, Stoic philosophy teaches us that we can strengthen our emotional resilience and boost our self-confidence by changing how we deal with these challenges. By adopting Stoic teachings, we can transform criticism into a springboard for solid personal development. 1. Accepting human imperfection. One of the pillars of Stoicism is accepting our human imperfection. No human being is perfect, and we are all subject to flaws and mistakes. This is not a weakness, but an opportunity to learn and grow. The criticism we receive often reflects aspects of ourselves that we can improve. Instead of seeing criticism as a personal attack, we can use it as a reminder that there is always room for improvement. Seneca reminds us in his writings that the obstacles we encounter are not problems to be avoided, but lessons to be learned. So rather than becoming angry at criticism, we can focus on what it can teach us. This shift in mindset is a powerful tool for increasing self-confidence. When we accept our humanity and recognize that mistakes are part of the growth process, criticism becomes just another step in our evolution. 2. Strengthening resilience. Stoic resilience is not about ignoring emotions, but about mastering emotional reactions in the face of adversity. When someone criticizes or attacks us, it is normal to feel hurt or irritated, but the key lies in how we handle these emotions. By practicing Stoic philosophy, we can learn not to be enslaved by our emotions, but instead be governed by reason. This allows us to absorb criticism without losing balance or confidence in ourselves. Epictetus teaches us that difficulties are inevitable, but how we deal with them is in our hands. He stated, "It is better to be rejected for being who you are than to be accepted for being who you are not." This means that by staying true to ourselves and our purpose, criticism becomes less harmful. Over time, the consistent practice of facing challenges and criticism without succumbing to discouragement strengthens us and builds an unshakable resilience. 3. Cultivating self-acceptance. Another important aspect of Stoicism is cultivating self-acceptance. Criticism often makes us doubt our worth, but the Stoics teach that our dignity does not depend on external approval. True value comes from within, and we must learn to accept and respect ourselves regardless of others' opinions. When we accept ourselves without relying on validation from others, our confidence becomes unshakable. Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations, often reminded himself that the opinions of others should not affect his own sense of self-worth. He encouraged us to focus on our own virtue and not allow external criticism to steer us away from our path of self-discovery. 4. Viewing criticism as an opportunity for growth. Lastly, Stoic resilience is deeply connected to the ability to see criticism as an opportunity for growth. Every criticism, no matter how painful, carries a lesson that can make us better. By adopting a learning mindset, no matter how difficult criticism may be, it becomes fuel for our evolution. The Stoics believed that we should embrace every difficulty as a chance to improve our virtue, patience, and courage. By accepting criticism in a positive way, we can strengthen our confidence and character. When criticism becomes part of our growth process, we stop seeing it as an enemy and start viewing it as an ally that challenges us to become better every day. Emotional freedom. The gift of Stoicism. Emotional freedom is one of the greatest gifts Stoicism can offer. Imagine being able to receive criticism without losing your inner peace, without allowing others' words or actions to affect your emotional state. Stoic philosophy, with its emphasis on self-control and wisdom, teaches us that we can achieve this freedom by understanding and applying Stoic principles in our daily lives. Separating what we can control from what we cannot. The first step to achieving emotional freedom is understanding the fundamental distinction between what is within our control and what is not. Most of the criticism we receive, whether at work, in personal relationships, or on social media, is beyond our control. We cannot control what others think of us or how they choose to express themselves. However, we can control how we react to that criticism. Stoicism teaches us that by focusing only on what we can control, our own actions, thoughts, and attitudes, we attain a form of true freedom. When we detach ourselves from others' opinions and the need for external approval, we are freer to act according to our own values and goals instead of being prisoners of others' expectations. 2. Not being a slave to emotions. Criticism can trigger a wide range of emotions, from frustration to sadness or anger. However, Stoicism challenges us not to be slaves to these emotions. Instead of being controlled by our brain's automatic reactions, we can learn to respond with serenity and rationality. The Stoics did not deny emotions. Rather, they taught us to recognize and manage them in a constructive way. By understanding that our emotions are internal responses to external stimuli, we can start questioning and challenging them. When criticism bothers us, we can reflect, why does this affect me? What can I learn from it? This practice gives us a sense of emotional autonomy. 3. True freedom. lies within us. Finally, true emotional freedom, according to Stoicism, does not depend on external circumstances but on our attitude toward them. As Epictetus said, "It is not what happens to us, but how we respond to it that matters." Emotional freedom comes from realizing that we are free to choose our responses to criticism, challenges, and adversity. When we accept that the power over our happiness and inner peace lies within us, we begin to experience a freedom that cannot be taken away by words or others' judgments. Instead of allowing criticism to consume us, we can focus on what truly matters: our personal growth, our virtue, and the inner peace that comes from Stoic acceptance. Conclusion: turning criticism into strength. Throughout this video, we have explored how Stoicism can be the key to transforming criticism and others' negativity into personal strength. We have learned that by adopting the teachings of philosophers like Epictetus, Seneca, and Marcus Aurelius, we can respond to adversity in a more balanced and rational way, rather than being consumed by anger or sadness. We have seen that Stoicism teaches us to emotionally distance ourselves from criticism, to reframe our perspective on it, and, most importantly, to accept our imperfect humanity. The process of strengthening our emotional resilience and cultivating self-acceptance allows us not only to overcome criticism, but also to grow from it. By focusing on what is truly within our control and learning to respond with serenity and rationality, we can achieve true emotional freedom. Now it's your turn. Apply these teachings in your daily life and observe how they can transform the way you handle adversity. If you've ever experienced moments when others' criticism shook your confidence, you now have the tools to turn it into a powerful strength. Share your experiences in the comments. Tell us how Stoicism has influenced your journey and how you've used these strategies to become emotionally stronger. And remember, external criticism does not define who you are. Your true strength comes from within. By embracing Stoicism, you can free yourself from others' opinions, strengthen your emotional resilience, and most importantly, live with greater inner peace and confidence.